what they do is they have music, they have a host, and they have speakers. So, for example, you might have two elected officials who come in. You give them 10 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes, but they speak. And for us, building something, this is building something new. Boston doesn't have this,
Right.
in my opinion. It has clergy, but if they come together, they come together in their denominational clan,
Right.
right? Or we have a Black Ministerial Alliance, but as they say, they don't deal with issues.
Are they still meeting? I haven't heard anything about the BMA.
I don't
or
know.
Or 10 Point.
Right. So as we both know that the BMA and 10 Point have come together as one.
Okay.
Right. So 10 Point was
right.
brought over there.
Right.
And again, it was a wise move because let me say this for the record. I believe that 10 Point and the Black Ministerial Alliance, that money is still being poured into the Black Ministerial Alliance, and money is still being poured into 10 Point because they still have a standing reputation. Whether or not they're functional, I don't even know, and I'm not gonna even go into that.
Who is the president? David Wright is still the executive director.
David Wright is still the executive director,
okay.
as far as I know.
But there's a president. Was Arlene Hall was the president last time I heard?
Right, she was. I don't know if she's still. Again, I know nothing about them. I've
anything.
never really, I've never really been a part of the BMA.
If anyone's listening out there, give us a call at 617-282-0685. If you know anything about the Black Ministerial Alliance, what's going on with them, please give us a call so that we can get an update.
Right.
So that folks can kind of know. I mean, and that's why it was so important to do the event last night. The church, the Black church in particular, has been very instrumental in doing many things as far as education, economics, home economics, teaching people, work ethics, everything.
Right.
Spiritual development, so forth, and so forth. And a lot of that has faded away or not being spoken about. So let's light a fire to some of the churches that are out there so that we can at least know what's going on so we can make referrals to people.
Well, I think that our younger pastors, some of them may not have studied the history of the Black church, or maybe they were not around an active Black church.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the church for them. For example, I've never, as a pastor, I unlike certain people that I know, I don't wear a dirty white collar when I go out when I want to look like a pastor,
mm-hmm.
or a clean white collar. I don't wear that,
right?
Because it makes it look like I'm telling people I'm a pastor or I'm a Christian. Or I want my life to reflect that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's no dispersion to anybody who does wear a collar. I'm saying I don't do that. I don't want to be. I haven't been involved in faith to become a bishop and to be set.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live my life in the religious world per se. I don't go to the conventions. I don't. I don't go to conventions because I heard about some terrible things that happens down there. So I tend to be an everyday person who happens to be a Christian. I want to be known as an everyday person who's a Christian. I don't want to be known as a pastor. Everyday person who follows Christ. And the reason why I want to see the rally in the church is because I think there needs to be, coming out of Boston, a real political movement that's more than just people trying to get money to do it but not doing it, right?
Right.
So that's why Dunk the Vote needs to be a part of this. And in the church, I want the church in Boston to get back to the roots of leading people and teaching people. And it was interesting this morning when we talked a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for Jamal to say, don't do it because people aren't going to come to the church. That a lot of you're going to exclude a lot of people from the church. Let me explain how I don't think that's going to happen. We were fighting to keep this parking lot across the street. We've been fighting for close to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Am I keeping you awake?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm freezing. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know where I was going because you interrupted me.
The parking lot.
Oh, the parking lot. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good. Someone's calling. Hold on to that parking lot.
Parking lot. Let me put it on.
Okay, someone's called. Let's see who it is.
You seem a little discombobulated.
No, I'm okay.
Good morning.
Good. We're there.
Go ahead. That sounds like.
Okay, all right. I was hearing something in my ear. All right.
Yeah, me too.
That was the song. But before you go,
I don't like that song.
I do. Jamal, before you go, one of the things that I want to see happen, because I'm 74. I'm not gonna. Jamal, don't laugh at that. I'm 74, and I want to pour the rest of my life into doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't get any other church in this town, I want this church to have a legacy of reaching the lives of people like we do out in the streets. I want us to be known and to combine the political piece. And if only the folk from the church show up. And I think more than just the people from the church, because last night was more than just the people from the church. They saw the church as a place of hope.
Yeah.
And I want to get us back to that.
Right.
Jamal, go ahead. You called in.
Yeah, well, Ron posed the question if anybody knows what's going on and whatnot. Well, this is a loop around. Remember what Priscilla had just said, the whole thing you asked who the dude Marcus Hall was, right?
Right.
And she described, Marcus Hall as he went and reached out to these churches and he was basically shunned because you're not a member, you don't tithe here, whatever reason.
Right.
Okay. Now, ain't that a blip? Because normally the church is supposed to go out and try to meet people where they're at, right?
They're at, right. You're right.
Where they're at. So here comes somebody, he saved you a trip. Here's somebody who came knocking on your door and said, hey, I got something that I'd like to work on. What was he offering? He wanted to sell crack rocks out of your basement? No.
Right.
He was trying to do something positive. Right? And that was resisted against and refused by the place that is supposed to be the place for these type of things. Okay. Now, what's happening with the BMA and the 10-point? Because, now, as you mentioned, the merge, it's now called BMA 10-point.
Right.
All right. In the words of the great philosophers, the Wayans brothers, more money, more money, more money.
That's what I see, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, see, now, you already answered your own question. You are a prominent black minister in the city. You've been here for a while. You actually walked with Jesus.
Ron had a delayed laugh like he didn't get that.
Yeah, you got to keep up, Ron. I'm throwing them quick here. I'm throwing them quick.
I'm over here dozing.
This is the lightning round.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't want to be at a show with you and I'm sitting in the front row and you saw me, because then you'd start throwing all your jokes and everything in my direction. And you got to, if you sit up front, you got to be able to take a joke.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this morning too, I forgot my other joke. Ron was quizzing you on the continents and the states and all that. Do you know how many states there are and everything? Leave that man alone. When he was young, it was 13 colonies.
It was 13 colonies.
Leave that man alone.
Things have changed.
He had on a little hat and a little buckle belt.
Things have changed.
When I don't have the answer, I do what I used to do in court. I'll take it under advisement. We'll come back in 2 weeks.
That's funny. Oh,
but now, in all seriousness, though, y'all really answered your own question, because here you are, as a preacher, as a pastor who has a whole church. You're not just one of these guys that says you're a pastor and ain't got no flock. So you got that. You have a track record of working and being in the community since 70s to the 80s, what have you. All right. Then sitting next to you was Ron Bell, who was also a prominent man of faith, and also as well, Dunk the Vote, known organizer. They sure know how to find them when it's time for them political campaigns.
They sure
right?
seen them last night, man.
Right.
Okay? So this is what happens. But now, here, the two of you just sat there and said, you don't know what's going on with the BMA or the 10-Point Coalition, right?
Right.
So fair to say, nothing is going on. Now, if you go to the website, if you go to the old BMA website, it's going to lead you to the new one, and now it says BMA 10-Point. What's the first thing you see? 2022 Virtual Awards Gala. Because, and this is not just a critique of the BMA or church, this is a critique of us as a people. Because this is what I've said has happened with our electeds, with our activist community, the philanthropic community. If somebody does another awards, another gala, another black tie affair, another whatever, pajama jammy jam, what are we doing here?
Right.
We're not going to party our way out of any of the problems we have. And then, two, what are we going to party like it's 1999 as the media is approaching to kill us all? So we can't have this, all these awards. We cannot be in the suffering condition that we are in, and everybody's getting awards for success. This doesn't match up.
Right.
You're winning awards for coaching, and we ain't got no wins on the team.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? So everybody is focused on patting each other on the back. I could tell you, too, the new brother is Reverend Dr. Jerron S. Green, senior pastor of Union Baptist Church of Cambridge. It looks like he is the new, just based on this thing here, he is the new BMA 10-Point director. Do not know him, but, certainly y'all should reach out. And once again, this is not a critique of it, but if you are supposed to be doing work in the community and whatnot, and the community don't know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, nothing, I think that is an indicator that the work, and we could make this critique for the past 20 years, that this has been the same thing. When I used to go to the meetings, and much like Marcus Hall, I was pleading for the pastors to work with me on a myriad of issues. Yeah. Pastor Wall, you, Dickerson, and Groover are, I think, the only pastors who ever took up on any of that. So these are things where, to my consistent points about the larger issues with the black church, these are the things that cats got to answer. Because when the money came in the game, it ain't never been the same. Okay?
Yep.
The churches now is scripping and scrambling for money, if it's still called faith-based or whatever. They got onto a bigger pot, which is nonprofit and philanthropic money and so on and so forth. Up here in Boston, between the Boston Foundation and all these people, all money is not good money. And when people start dangling a dollar on a little stick, you start seeing who's going to jump. So I would like to see, okay, look, y'all know what I do. Every weekend, right? Every Sunday. That's just me and Larry. Ain't no money involved. Well, there is money involved. The money that I'm burning up to do it myself.
Right.
Paying for my own gas and Larry for his, and and at our own Nobody is championing this, or we get there. Nobody is shooting confetti out the sky at us. But see, some of these people, and it reminds me much of the biblical stuff, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and all the people who wanted to contribute, but they had to make such a show of it so that people see, and now they are being, to me, lauded to do the littlest of things, or things that they can't. We've been working on the issue of violence in Boston. Well, have you? Because if you have, you certainly are not doing a great job. Right? And nobody knows you.
True. And that speaks to, it's something that they really, raised a point around the Boston Magazine. You know how they have the 50 most powerful people and this, that, whatever. And, and these folks are really, they're really aiming to be in that book or in that number. And then they all of a sudden they start reading their own press. It's like, what are you really doing?
Right. It's just not believing what people are writing about.
And they're picking our leaders.
Right.
I was just in it and I got kicked out of it.
That's right. Somebody did something. I remember
Yeah,
that.
somebody made a complaint and said that, of course, I hate women, I hate gay people, I hate white people, I hate Jewish people. I'm just a hater. So I hate everyone.
Yeah, I remember you and I had a conversation because that bothered me. I was like, "What the heck?" I said, "Wow."
And once again, and to that point, but that's the beauty of it. Doesn't hurt me because I don't care in the first place.
Right.
So I told the editor, I'm like, when he was like, "Hey, with this problem, it just happened. We got this information." I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just take me out, no problem."
Right.
He's like, well, don't, maybe we can do an explainer. I said, no, we're not going to do an explainer. I'm not going to write nothing. You certainly ain't going to put a little asterisk and a little blurb by my name or whatever. Just take me out. Doesn't matter. And I'm like, does it come with a $10,000 check or something that I'm missing?
Right,
yeah,
right.
Like, I don't care. This don't mean nothing to me, and not for nothing. Even if it came with a check, I still would have said the same thing because I don't care.
Right.
The things that I do and the reasons that I do it is certainly not that. And this is why many of them, in my opinion, are pressed. And so back to the original point of the gala, the awards, the black tie affairs, the photo ops, the press conferences, the Facebook, the TikTok. It's all about now, like, appearance and ego has taken over, and look at me, I can dance, and I do this, and look, I'm here with this Boston Celtic, and I'm over here with this, and I'm on this boat, and on the Charles, and and it's like people are trying to what's old boy, champagne wishes and caviar dreams. Remember that Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous?
Yep.
Everybody, it's like that was to me like the beginning of it, and MTV Cribs and all that type of stuff. Now with this social media the way it is, everybody just wants to floss and show what they got, or show that they're so cute or so intelligent or so smooth and so cool, and and it's just everybody is just trying to. It's just a big ego show, pomp and circumstance, a fashion show. A meat market as well, because a lot of these people too are they're either looking for power, they're looking for money, men are looking for women are looking for men, or in some cases, either or, you know what I mean? But people are looking for relationships and sex. I mean, this is age-old stuff. It's in the Bible. It's the same stuff that drove men crazy. Men, by men I mean mankind, from the beginning of time.
But what does
greed, envy?
What does this do to our town? What does this do to our community? Where does it keep us?
It's worse here because you know why? Because we're so small. Okay, look, if we're all at the beach down the Cape in the ocean, and I pee in the ocean, you could be swimming 10 feet away. You're not going to get to pee, right?
I hope not.
Yeah, right. Right. But if we're in a bathtub together, and I pee, that directly affects you. Right? So that's what Boston is.
We're so small.
If we were somewhere like California, it would matter less because the foolishness would be spread out further, and you would also find, you find more bad people, but you also find more good people. So now the pockets of good people, instead of having a pocket of 10 good people, you might actually have a pocket of 1,000 good people.
Well, my question for you on all of this is, what have you set your priority to be based on your age, based on your stamina, all of that? What have you set? What are your 5 or 4 or 1 major goal? What are you going to be working on? Because you can't do everything, right? We all can't.
Right. Much of it was already done, police reform. But to Priscilla's point before, when she felt a good moment when they passed the Boston resident jobs policy, but then Chuck was like, "Yeah, but we still got to," So while a lot of the stuff that I was pushing for in police reform has been now passed and but now it's about the implementation,
right?
And not only the implementation, but they got to implement it right. You know what I mean? So I still have to stay vigilant on that. Also, too, what I deal with a lot is personal reflection, introspection. So one of my main pet projects is always myself. I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
Because if I'm out here being critical of people who are fraudulent or egomaniacs or whatever, I certainly like if I'm the guy that points out everybody else's bad breath, I certainly want to make sure my breath is good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm constantly popping mints.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to do, working on myself, my family, of course, my daughter, number one priority in the life, get my finances in order and all these types of things, which I'm straight on. But the main thing for me is going to be police reform. The other thing, probate court, which I'll be tackling this issue of fatherhood, some of the legal and policy-wide, impediments that are breaking up families. And from my experience, my daughter's 25 now, so I'm good, but I don't want anybody else to have to suffer through what I suffered through. So, things like that are what I try to do. And on the smaller level, you see the little Jim Kelly thing. I try to stack up. I'm a fighter. I'm like Mayweather, right? But I only choose or allow myself to book the fights that I believe I can win.
Right. So on the removing the names, the bridge, the city hall name, Dapper O'Neill. How are you going to? I saw the news articles. Where do you go from here to continue to move on that? And do you have other folk joining you? What are you going to need in order to achieve that?
I mean, not for nothing. In record time, I don't know any. Look, I first pushed this issue in October. Put it out through the Dig Boston. My good brother Chris Ferrone, who you should bring on there sometime, who's the editor and publisher of Dig Boston, formerly of the Phoenix and all this. But he published, what I wrote when I first initiated this to the city council. That was in October.
Yeah.
Was quiet for a couple of months. Then all of a sudden, story in the Globe, the Globe editorial. Who do you know where the Globe editorial? The editorial board agrees with you.
Right.
Off the rip. They didn't have any discussion with me.
Right.
No conversation with me. And then there was the article by Danny McDonald.
Yes.
Which further drilled down on the disgusting history of both Jim Kelly and Dapper O'Neill. Then there was the Herald one, which, surprise, surprise, went in a different direction. But, they still both laid it out. And so what do I need to succeed? Basically, like I said, I try to pick fights I can win. Nobody can argue logically against this. There is no other side to this.
Right.
Now, yes, the citizens of South Boston could be mad and say, Jim Kelly's our guy. We love him. We respect him. Dapper O'Neill does. Well, great. Well, then you'll have to do like people do for Santa Claus. You'll have to get you a little cutout and put it in your own house and celebrate it on your own lawn or your own property. But for the majority of citizens of Boston, if it is ever put to a vote, or if it goes before city council, I think most citizens of Boston are going to find that the conduct and the statements by these gentlemen, which did not happen in the year 1772 when you were, turning 21. Yeah. This happened. This stuff happened in real time. We have videotape of this stuff.
Right.
For some of the kids, they say videotape. That's old school too. But it's modern time. We have documented things about them, not just disparaging and being against black people, which is what ticked off a lot of the white people who thought I'm just coming after them on some anti-black stuff. No. They were all around despicable. Didn't like black people, didn't like gay people, Asian people, Latino people. Yeah. Only ones that I never heard anything about, but if we would have been able to ask them, I bet they weren't too fond of the Jews either.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask, but I think you've answered it, the next step, either a city council hearing where you would have to speak, right? And then
not necessarily have to, but I would be available if they needed me or whatever. I mean, it's there. City council has a better control over the Dapper O'Neill name because it's in City Hall.
In City Hall, right? So they can just make that. They can just make that decision, and it's
well.
Done.
Once again, I don't know what the rules are, so it's either them or the mayor or whoever. But that's definitely within their. That's in their realm.
Right. The bridge is different.
That's different. That's difficult. That was Ron Bell's former boss, Mr. Deval Patrick.
He did that.
Well, no, he had to sign off when he was the governor at the time. So that's the governor's involved, Massachusetts Department of Transportation, because it's a bridge. So, yeah, that's state, that's DOT. So that's going to be, yeah. Apparently somebody, when he got here from Chicago, somebody didn't give him the memo.
I gave him plenty of memos.
Oh, you know,
I was gone after that. That must have happened. What year was that?
It was after he died. I think that might have been like, what, 2008, 2010, I think. Yeah, I can't. Okay, my memory ain't good on stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's something that you initiated, and at least it's gone public because of your name recognition and the work that you've done. So that's something you have to carry. You're going to have to carry that. And as it relates to the whole Black Agenda thing, are you still promoting the Black Agenda piece? Has anybody picked up on that you respect that can carry it?
Well, I know Priscilla and her group have some interest in it, but I have to now go back. This would now, I restart this engine. This will now be the third restart.
Okay.
So we did it the first time when I first initiated it. That was the biggest push.
Okay.
Put out over like 15,000 newspapers, like 10,000 flyers, campaigned all over, it was crazy. The website, everything. Didn't get the results that wanted.
Yeah, but was it the timing? Was it where we were as a community?
No, it's people. It's apathy. It's laziness. It's just disinterest. It's just disinterest.
So what would make it different today?
I'm not convinced that it would. But when people say these things, that's what got me to the second iteration. Mm-hmm. The second iteration, people was like, well, Jamal, look, no, now is the time. Maybe it wasn't right before. Now is the time. But look, you had too much stuff on there, because I had a lot of different, I had the environment, the economy, health, criminal justice, every issue you could think of. But I had like 10 of them.
Yeah.
And so in the second iteration, they was like, nah, we just need to focus on like 4 things. So I think it was like, economics, employment type of thing. It was like housing, criminal justice, public safety, police, and then education. Mm-hmm. So those were the 4 that they got narrowed down to. And that's what people swore to me would then work. Okay, so then we relaunched. Less response and enthusiasm than the first time. So now,
Jamal, and moving to your point, in 6 years I turned 80, and my wife is asking the question, when are we going to get this time? You've been focused on all these things. When are we going to get this time? And I definitely don't want to wait to 80 to say, okay, I'm ready, because that's not going to work. And so I really have to set priorities and get ready to sort of get off the scene a little bit, to pour the rest of what I have into Karen and the kids.
I mean, not for nothing. They say, elders for counsel and young men for war. Mm-hmm. The problem is, as we've discussed before, too, we're not reproducing it. Mm-hmm. There are some people, such as yourself, you might look at me as a young man. Mm-hmm. I ain't no young man. Mm-hmm. I'm about to be 52 in 23 days or so. So I'm 52 now. I'm a younger man, middle-aged or whatever they call it these days or whatever. But, where's the young man my daughter's age who's 25? And that is still, he's grown. He's no longer a kid.
Right.
That's a grown man. So where are the 16 and 17-year-old kids and all this type of thing? So we're struggling against something, because even those of us who are willing to pass something on, which is rare, there's not a lot of people to pass it on to. Now, I have a lot of young people, for instance, if I told them, hey, I'll give you all my connects to the rap world or something like that, once they figure out all the different people I know in the entertainment industry and all that, they would beat down my door for it. I could probably charge them money for it. Like, hey, for $1,000, I could hook you up with this industry executive or whatever. People would be all over that.
Yeah.
Right? But if I say I will give you black knowledge for free, or once again, I'll do that as the last example. People are impressed sometimes when they find out that I know a certain celebrity.
Right.
But that's only because that's a celebrity in your mind, because that's who you resonate with. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if I told you Lil Wayne is my cousin, people are like, wow, Lil Wayne is your cousin?
Wow, yeah.
Okay? But if he's not, by the way, because that would make a very awkward family reunion. But if I tell a young person, Nelson Mandela was my uncle, they might say, who?
Right.
Because they don't know who Nelson Mandela is.
Right.
They don't know who Jomo Kenyatta is. They don't know who Runoko Rashidi is, Ashra Kwesi, or any of the people who were so important and instrumental to my life in terms of developing black knowledge, revolution, Mutulu Shakur. All these, they don't know. So when I tell them that, that's not impressive. Hey, I know Mutulu Shakur. That's not impressive until I tell you, oh, Mutulu Shakur, that's Tupac's father. Oh! Now it's impressive.
Now it connects, yeah.
Right. So
everything in a context. Everything has to have a context is what I'm hearing from you.
Exactly. And it's more difficult for us to get new people because it's almost like we have to trick them in to make them feel like, yo, this is fun and it's sexy and it's cool. And a lot of it is not. How do you trick people into something to say, hey, bruh, it's going to be a lot of hard work. You ain't going to get a whole bunch of thank yous and accolades. You're going to be tired. It's going to be depressing. You know, yeah, where do I sign up? You know, it's tough. We're asking people to sacrifice, to go above and beyond the call of duty. And to have to, as the Bible talks about, in many cases, you have to do what? Put away childish things. You know, nobody is like, you know, and look, I got my flaws too. You know, when I'm on my downtime, I don't go to the nightclub. You ain't gonna catch me out on any of these little nights and nothing like that. So what's my little vice? I sometimes zone out and play a little video game. 52 years old, plays video games. But that's better than the alternative to me.
Right.
But if it also came down to the revolution, I will sell this game unit in a hot minute because we got bigger fish to fry.
Right. And well, I'll ask you that more personally. So again, I'm gonna wind down, get ready to call it quits. I appreciate your perspective, and I'm gonna be having some of these conversations. I'm gonna maybe talk to you off the air again about my 6 years turning 80. I need to set a real priority as to where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. And also, it's turning this church over to the next leader, the next person who's going to be leading this church.
I accept.
Okay, well, we'll oh, Jamal, I was telling him I need to sit down and talk with him about the next 6 years of my life. I turned 80, things about the community and also who I'm going to turn this church over to. And he said, I accept. I thought when he said I accept, he was saying, I accept that we can sit down and talk. That's not what he was saying.
Right. Next Sunday going to be very different.
Listen, no. We have a residency requirement. You got to live 2 blocks around the church in order to do it. It comes with a nice parsonage, 14-room parsonage that these folk had. Wow, isn't that something?
Nice.
And people have wanted to sell it, and I said, no, you're not selling the property. It's when I came here to this church, it had a parsonage, 14 rooms, no mortgage on it at all, completely free.
Nice.
I said, we're not selling it, we're keeping it. Wow. And when I leave here, it's still going to be here. All right,
nice.
Jamal.
Well, let me just give you this before we go, since you mentioned your lovely wife Karen. I also encourage you, because I know she's home more and that type of thing, and maybe not coming into the studio, but also too calling in sometime, because she lends a lot to it. A woman's perspective. Yeah. As you know, she's very smart.
Yeah.
The mental health angle. Yeah. So she has a couple of layers that I think could add some flavor to a lot of these conversations.
Right.
Particularly around the mental health issues, because a lot of this, particularly with what I'm talking about, the ego and the leadership, a lot of these people who have gone astray and whatnot, these are people who are in trauma and turmoil, and they are spreading their trauma and turmoil off to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just definitely think that she and whoever else she would suggest could lend a deeper lens to these conversations that we have.
Yeah, and some of this trauma is being spread over the pulpit.
Listen, and we didn't get to that point because, again, why is some of these churches not respected the way what I harp on? The church cannot come out to the black community and say, hey, we need to deal with this and this and that. And the black community is looking at y'all and saying, well, you need to deal with this and this and that.
Right.
You know, the materialism, the sexual abuse in the church, all the sexual dysfunctions and whatnot. Preachers getting more play than I am. Come on. Something's going on.
Well, they're in the church. Of course. Yeah. Karen, last night at the dinner, she spoke. She and Ron were hosting it. But she spoke, and she went right into that trauma thing. And Ron went into that trauma thing and triggered something. Then Karen started picking up on it. And I said to myself, Karen has a broadcast here every second Sunday. She does something with a group of women. But if she started talking about the trauma and how to identify it and place and giving out the resources, that might be kind of an interesting broadcast. So,
and that's what I mean, just to have almost as a consultant or whatever, because obviously she has her own show or whatnot. But I'm talking about chiming in on a lot of these conversations that we're having generally about the politics or it adds another layer, and I think she would be a welcome addition. And once again, too, the woman factor. If you notice, a lot of times Priscilla is the only woman input that we're getting in on a lot of this type of thing as well. So, I think it would just open up the arena to another range of ideas.
Good point.
Yeah, and she did that last night. I actually asked her to put together some resources for folks dealing with trauma, suicide, which a lot of folks are suffering. And I mentioned the whole thing around Twitch. And, there's a lot of brothers calling me, man. And they're going through some things, and they dress it up. They throw on their little suit and ties. They have this smile and try to act all macho, this, that, and they're suffering in silence. So that's why I asked Pastor K to, bring some information. And people are taking it.
Yeah.
Which was good.
Yeah. Okay, Jamal, thanks for the input. We will be back again. Leon's coming on now, so I'm going to take my rest.
All right, brother. Jamal, take care, my man.
All right, bye-bye.
Later.
You've been listening to Black News with Ron Bell, and I've been helping him out today because I've been listening to his broadcasts over the past couple of months, and I felt he needed an assist, so I came in. Why are you laughing?
No, I'm tired.
That's what I want to get you when you're tired. You can't fight back.
I don't even feel like it.
Coming up at the 11 o'clock hour will be none other than Leon Rock. So we'll get set up for him, and I hope that you will stay with us here on Boston Praise Radio and TV and Boston Black News.